Imagine you're lost in the woods. You've been walking for miles, but you can't find the path home. At this point, every tree is looking the same and you're starting to panic. Finally, luckily, you spot an old friend sitting on a stump. Relief washes over you as you rush over and you eagerly ask for directions. They respond, "You don't need directions. You're killing it out here, bud. Hey, and congrats on getting some steps in." The compliment feels good, but you push them further, reminding them you still feel lost. They nod, they think. Minutes go by in total silence. Finally, they hand over a map. Here's what it looks like. Congratulations, you're still lost, and you hate your friend. This is what it feels like when you get bad feedback on a film. Bad feedback leaves filmmakers and the films they've worked so hard on stranded. So today we're breaking down how to give good feedback, the kind that actually helps filmmakers out of the woods to improve their work instead of leading them around in circles. And the first culprit of bad feedback was a problem I noticed in the early days of the Discord server for my short film course Wrapped in 30 Days. It's a very common but ineffective way of giving feedback on scripts and films. They were being too nice. Hey, I understand why. For beginner filmmakers, you know you have many shortcomings yourself, so how dare you call out somebody else's, especially if they actually finished their film and you're still working on yours. But that humility and blind positivity kind of defeats the purpose of giving feedback at all. Giving feedback serves one key function for the receiving filmmaker. It helps them identify areas to improve the film, or to watch out for to improve future films. That's it. But what about praising them on their efforts? If I give harsh feedback, what if I discourage them from ever making another film? Well, those are kind of valid concerns, but they're overhyped, as you'll soon see. And by the way, I think we have a pretty good idea of another form of bad feedback, just plain old heinous assholery, and you can see them on many of my film's YouTube comments. Get used to that if you're gonna put stuff up here. Let's talk about good feedback for a moment. What is good feedback? Good feedback is constructive, and it is best given when a project is still a work in progress. Because if the film is already finished, you should probably only give constructive feedback when the filmmaker requests it. Otherwise, you're just kind of saying, here's what you should have done.
Hey, you can't park there!
Constructive means the notes can be used to construct a stronger version of the film. So here's some examples. I felt like the opening scene dragged on for too long and I found myself waiting for the story to start. The neighbor character went from being funny to gross for me by the middle of the film. I'm not sure if that was your intention. Maybe he just had one or two many raunchy jokes. The edit feels too choppy throughout, kind of like you're cutting around mistakes. I'd love to see a version with longer, more definitive choices made in the edit, even if it slowed down some scenes. I really wanted to see the lead's face when she dropped that bombshell line instead of only hearing it over the phone. I don't know if you have coverage of that. So each of these is a note that can be used to construct a potentially stronger version of the film. And notice how they don't sound mean even when listed back to back. Like imagine if those were all for the same film. That's because constructive feedback is inherently kind. A lot of thought and effort goes into giving constructive feedback. Somebody's doing you a huge favor by spending their energy analyzing your film for ways that it could be improved. How could that be mean? When feedback is considered mean, I would argue that it's usually just not constructive. So for example, constructive feedback is not rewriting or redirecting or recasting the film. That's not your role, and it's usually impossible by the time you're giving notes anyways. So here's some examples of bad feedback. The main character's voice is so annoying. At the end, you should make him find out about his wife's affair. That bank robbery was really unrealistic. Notice how these types of notes sound mean and unhelpful, especially when you list them back to back. Like if those were your notes for the same film, you'd just be like, I want to give up. Now they may all be accurate notes, but that doesn't make them good notes because they're not actionable. How could you address these notes without just refilming the whole movie? So to simplify things, try this formula to make sure that you're giving good feedback. 1, make an objective observation about the film. For example, the opening montage was 3 minutes long. 2, describe your personal feeling or interpretation or reaction to it and how that could be a problem. For example, it had some pretty shots, but I felt like I was waiting for the story and the conflict to start. And then 3, totally optional, offer a remedy, or my preference, pose a leading question. For example, could everything the montage is saying be boiled down to one shot from it? So again, that 3-step process. Make an objective observation about the film, say how it made you feel, and then if you want, offer them a suggestion. Don't even have to do that. You want a step-by-step process for bad notes? Well, here's the formula for bad feedback. Step 1, make a subjective judgment about the film. For example, the opening was really boring. And then step 2, optional, provide an impossible remedy. For example, you should have it start with the guy hijacking a car instead. As you can see, bad notes like this are also just plain lazy. But what about being nice, you might be saying? I can't just list off all the problems in the film. Well, guess what? You kind of can. When I give notes on any work in progress, 80% of my message is usually just what I feel could be improved, not the things that I loved, because constructive notes are more helpful than pats on the back. And I think this is a clear differentiating factor between amateurs and serious filmmakers. How much do you value constructive feedback? Do you interpret it as an attack on you and your talent, or do you crave feedback that might actually improve your film? Can you guess which reaction the amateur has and which one the more serious filmmaker has? And that doesn't mean the serious filmmaker doesn't still feel like they took a punch in the chin when they first hear that kind of feedback. That's unavoidable though, but in true Rocky fashion, they're prepared to go the distance. And they'll ultimately be extremely grateful for the help, assuming it was actually helpful, even if it was a bit painful to hear at first. So to be a truly good feedback giver, you have to be brave enough to risk bruising their ego. And we could do a whole other video about how to receive feedback, but we're talking about giving feedback here. So let's talk about when films just really suck. How do you give good feedback on a turd without sounding like an asshole? Well, in my experience, even if I really don't like a piece, there's always something redeeming about it. And I make sure to include that so they know I'm not just picking their work apart for fun. And making that intention clear is really the most important thing. Making sure they know I'm saying this to help you. I'm not saying this to discourage or rag on you at all. And I actually have one more hack for you that makes doing this dead simple. But first, if you're serious about making more films of your own, I've got something for you. It's called Wrapped in 30 Days. It's my step-by-step filmmaking program that takes you from zero, total blank page, no ideas, to a completed short film in just 30 days, without the overwhelm, without getting stuck, and without feeling like you're doing it all alone. I spent over a year building out the curriculum of videos, guides, templates that all walk you through the writing, the producing, the directing, and even the editing of your own crowd-pleasing film. On top of that, our private Discord community keeps you accountable, it keeps you encouraged through this process, and it's the perfect place to exchange notes on your scripts and edits. Plus, during each session of Wrapped, I host weekly live calls answering your questions, keeping you on track to successfully wrap your film in a month. We ran the last session in January. The responses were incredible, with a bunch of members wrapping their films and creating work they're really proud of. Doors are opening soon for the April session, and if you want in, now is the time to join the wait list. Just enter your email because spots are limited, and you might even get a special offer before the doors officially open. So if you're ready to take your narrative filmmaking to the next level, join the waitlist now. Click the link in the description to do that. But if you just want to help out your fellow filmmakers for now, here's my last tip on giving feedback, and it is a classic. It's called the compliment sandwich. Now, it might seem simplistic, but after giving a lot of people a lot of feedback on a lot of projects, I find it's just the easiest way to make sure that I can give them that value of the feedback that they want while making sure I don't come off like a dick, especially if it's somebody that I don't know that well and I have a lot of notes. To do it, simply start and end your feedback with something you think they did well, or just a few words of encouragement. These positive bookends to the notes that you're giving are the bread, the compliment bread. And in between that compliment bread lies the actual meat of the sandwich, the notes, which you might want to present humbly, especially if this is somebody that you're worried about offending. So to see it in action, it might look something like this. Hey, thanks so much for sharing your film. First off, I loved the switch in perspective halfway through. Didn't expect that from this kind of story. Here's some notes I made that might be helpful. Feel free to disregard if I'm off the mark. Note 1, note 2, note 3, yada, yada, yada. Hope that helps. I'm looking forward to seeing how it shapes up. Please keep me posted. That's it. You're out of there. Now, the compliment sandwich might seem a little patronizing, but it's the easiest way to give good feedback without risking offense or rewording crucial notes just to soften your message, right? It signals your goodwill even when you feel the work might still have a long way to go. But if you want some more help on articulating what might be wrong with a film, many problems stem from the script. And this video will give you a handy screenwriting checklist for troubleshooting any scene that isn't working on the script level. And if you're looking to give and receive good feedback on your next film, join Wrapped in 30 Days waitlist today by clicking the link below to become part of our awesome community of like-minded filmmakers. Let's make some movies.